Hey, it's Corey Jacobsen with elk101.com, and I just wanted to take a few minutes here and run through some elk calls that I'm excited to be trying out this fall. In light of everything that's going on in the elk calling world, and also in preparation for the World Elk Calling Championships that were held last month, I had a chance to literally try just about every call that's available out there. I spent hundreds of dollars ordering every diaphragm, bugle tube, everything you can imagine, trying to find the ones that will work best for me. So here's my recommendations for some alternate diaphragms and bugle tubes and cow calls that are comparable to calls that I've used in the past. To start things off, I'm going to talk about diaphragms, and you'll see I've got a stack of diaphragms that I went through here, and I've narrowed it down to some diaphragms from 4 different manufacturers. The first one is from Riven, and Riven's a brand new company, just launched last month. Bo Brooks, who's the current world champion elk caller, is heading up the efforts there, and their orange diaphragm works really good for me. So here's a sample of what Riven's orange diaphragm sounds like. So it's got a little bit of a tighter stretch, lighter latex, really easy to use, hits that high note good, great option for a diaphragm call. The next one is Slayer, and you may have heard of Slayer. They're a newer company as well, and the green diaphragm from Slayer is the one from them that I was able to use the best. So a little bit of a wider frame, a little bit more difficult to blow, but you're able to really put some pressure into it. So if you blow a little harder on diaphragms, this might be a good option for you. The next manufacturer is Born and Raised Outdoors, and there's 2 calls, the Committed, which is the yellow one, and September, which is the orange one. Both of them are pretty similar for me, and both of them make really good sounds. So that is September, and Committed. So of those 2, I think September's probably my favorite. It's lighter latex, really easy to blow, really easy to hit all the notes you need to. Cow calling. Again, really easy to use. Committed, which is the yellow one, takes a little bit more pressure, but again, pretty easy to use. So either of those would be great calls. And then from Phelps, there are 3 calls, the pink one, the gray amp, and the number 1 pitch black. Those are the 3 that I pulled out of all of the Phelps diaphragms I tried that have a good sound and fit me and my style of calling. So great option, that's the number 1 pitch black, the gray amp. And then the pink diaphragm. So of the Phelps, I think the pink diaphragm is probably my favorite. Again, from Born and Raised Outdoors, The September, the orange one is my favorite. Slayer's green one, and Riven orange one. Those are the diaphragms that I'll be packing with me in elk season this year. And moving on to open reed cow calls, I didn't get a huge selection. I probably got 8 or 9 different open reed cow calls, and the two that stood out are the cow call from Slayer and the Mini X open reed cow call from Phelps. And both of them work good, have good tones, don't seem to stick. The reed doesn't stick on the soundboard, and I'm able to operate those pretty good. The Slayer's a little louder and a little bit more abrupt and bold. And with the Mini X from Phelps, I'm able to really use some soft calls on that. And then with the Phelps Mini X, we're really able to get good soft cow sounds with that. And then lastly, bugle tubes. And I've used the same bugle tube for a long time and found that there's a lot of good bugle tubes on the market and available. And the 3 that stood out to me the most was this one. It's from Mile High Note Game Calls. They're out of Colorado. Tom Deasing owns that, and Tom's a great guy, great elk caller. And this is probably my favorite tube of all of them I tested. It's got a great sound. It's lightweight, it's small, it's very similar to what I've used in the past. The only thing different is on the mouthpiece. It's a little bigger than your average mouthpiece, but it's not flared like what I've gotten used to. With that being said, you can lip ball, you can do everything you need to with this bugle tube. So here's a sample of what the bugle tube sounds like. The next one is the Born and Raised Outdoors bugle tube. A little bit bigger, especially down on the bellow here. It does have the flared mouthpiece that I like. Even though it's bigger though, as far as diameter down on the bellow part of the tube, it's lightweight. It's probably the lightest tube that I've tested. And it also has incredible sounds. Another tube that I tested that's worth mentioning is this one from Slayer. And you'll notice, here's the original tube from Slayer, and this is the modified tube that I modified. You'll notice it's shorter and has a different mouthpiece on it. And I feel like the neck on the tube makes it ring a little too much. Gets a little bit of that culvert sound, kind of that hollow sound. I'll show you the difference between the two. Still a great option, but if you're able to modify it, cut it down, and put a little shorter neck on it, I think it'll make it even better. And now if I switch to the one with the modified shorter neck, again, those are the 3 tubes that I found that perform the best for me. And I went through every one of these diaphragms in this pile looking for the ones that I could use in the elk calling contest, as well as ones that I'll be using out in the elk woods this fall. So that's my recommendations for elk calls for 2023. Be sure and check the description down below in the video because there are discount codes for almost all of these manufacturers. So when you order straight from their websites, you're going to save anywhere from 10 to 25%. So be sure and look down below to get those codes, visit those manufacturers, and good luck calling elk this fall.